Okay, we are group 3. Next slide, please. Thank you. You know already the tasks, so we go to the next slide. Lego, everybody knows it. We wanted to take a look at it from the IP side. So some facts about IP. The last brick patent expired 1989. Lego has still active patents and patent applications, which is a short preview to their existing IP strategy now. That design protection was lost 2019, but the opinion was removed last year. So there is still a fight about the design, and it is still ongoing. And the trademark is still in force. Next slide, please. But Lego wasn't always in a good financial situation, as you can see now. The profit was really low, or in the negative side, 2003 and 2004, but now it's still growing. And they had a negative side of profit, despite they had a positive side of revenue. Why did this happen? Next slide, please. The business strategy before 2003 was a little bit mixed up. They used the metrics management, where it's hard for the divisions to connect to each other because they don't know what they do or what the other division does. Next slide, please. This resulted in negative effects. So they had no idea what product makes money and which not. The retailers were overstocked with unsold products. They ignored focuses on end users. And of course, there was a lack of profitable innovation, and a lot of products were not profitable. Next slide, please. As you saw on the slides before, 2003 they made negative or made no profit. And so there was a need to change their business strategy. And especially it had to be fast. So they made an action plan where they made a 7-year plan, where the first 2 years were managed for cash. Then they managed for profit. And when they are stable again, they managed for growth. But how did they do that in detail? Next slide, please. That will explain Stefan to you.
Thank you, Hannes. And building on the amazing work Group 1 and Group 2 has done on Task 1, we are adding here the business canvas that we discussed in Module 2 of our course. Separating here the entire business model by the business units, products, key partners being wholesalers, distributors, retailers, obviously, the media, which covers both the videos, but also the games, everything that is related to media creation, the parks, where people can go for their own entertainment, the stores as a distribution channel for the physical products, but also for services, like you can create your own Lego figure. For those of you who haven't done it yet, you should do it. It's a great fun. And then obviously also the general business of licensing in certain media content like Star Wars, Harry Potter, but subsequently also licensing out, as you have probably seen, that you can buy from Adidas now Lego shoes. So it evolved over time, surely. Not going into all the brackets here, but I think what is key is the value proposition, because that's in the end what the IP should also support. The USP is learning through play. It stimulates children's creativity and learning. And it's separated clearly by the game creators of playing, being entertained, learning, having a strong engagement, first of all, with the set of toys in front of the kid, but also between kids, but also between kids and parents or adults in general. So the social interaction is definitely a game creator from the perspective of the value proposition of Lego. But they also deliver on pain relievers. It's easy and intuitive to play. We have learned, I believe it was Group 2, quite a lot about the amazing work they have done on the molds. So masters of the molds, as they describe themselves, clearly help to take everything that is a pain in playing out of the equation. What we believe is important here also when we're talking about the customer journey is to separate B2B from B2C. Customer journey will be done on the B2C. Here we have the parents of preschool kids, the school kids themselves, but also the adults that are closely associated, being fans, like we learned from Andreas with the Porsche car, and that is a B2C segment that we're going to understand much better with the customer journey approach. But we should also not forget the tremendous work that Lego has done over time, in particular in the phase managing for cash on their B2B networks. Retail first was the strategy. Focus on the wholesalers, distributors, and retailers to really help them to have a winning assortment and prevent them from overstocking of unsellable SKUs. Last but not least, looking at the revenue streams, because that's in the end what the IP should also support. Lego being a player that is targeting premium prices for the sales for the goods being sold, but also premium prices for the media content, be it that they want to maximize the rent out of movies or maximize the price for the games that they are offering to the general market. They also want to maximize the tickets being sold for their own parks. And in the end, when it comes to licensing out the IP, as I mentioned before, in the case of Adidas shoes, they also want to have the highest possible license fee. So everything that they're doing is tailored towards maximizing the price. And with that, I hand over to our next colleague.
Thank you, Stefan. So I'll be talking about the customer journey. So before we go into the specific detail of the customer journey in the context of the Lego movie, I think it's first important to understand the definition, the terminology. What does customer journey mean? So it is a representation of the service process from the customer perspective over time. So importantly, you can see that the customer journey, they are often split into a series of different customer touch points. And at the same time, it can also be differentiated based on the different segments of the ecosystem. Next slide, please. And a quick note about the Lego movie before we look at the customer journey. As I think we have all spoken about, Lego has a very deep, far deeper emotional connection to its fans than a lot of other toy-based movie franchises. And I think a critical reason for that is that essentially when you look at the movie, it is not treated as branded content. So the product and the brand are so interwoven that one does not exist without the other. So, but nothing about the experience really reads as an advertisement. So essentially, I think what they have been able to achieve with this is that there are several elements that made it so successful. One, the message itself has been able to keep with the internets of the brand, and at the same time, they bring about a fully immersive Lego world. And next, I think Andy will quickly walk us through the customer journey.
Yes, thank you, Clement. And in regard with the customer journey and retail experience, we can, for the Lego case, we can mainly differentiate in three areas. So three macro areas, which are in-store retail experience, online, and out of store. And the Lego movies fall within this category. And it is important to point out that a movie, compared to other form of experience, build as a strong emotional component and build connection between the customers and the brand. And in this case, both for the parents, which were probably already user of the Lego products, and their children. Also interesting is that a movie is not so restricted in terms of advertisement or in-ad advertisement for product placement. So there is more freedom for the producer, for Lego in this case, to exploit this mean to promote their product. And it's also targeting children, which are more sensitive to brands. And finally, that movie shows also new way or alternative way to use a product. So they might, the parents and the children might be already user of Lego, but a movie can show further way to use them, and therefore further way to buy the product. Next one, please. So in the customer journey, they could be multiple customer journey. In this case, we differentiate mainly among two of them. So there is a customer journey of the parents and the customer journey of the children. Next. So in this case, we took we said that there is a father, so Luke father, and we go through the step of the customer journey, which are awareness, consideration, acquisition, service, and loyalty. I will not go to detail because it has been already explained before. So in this case, let's say fictional father, Luke father, which is already a fan of Lego. Or not, he brings Luke to watch the movie, and therefore develop an awareness in his son. After that, both started visiting a physical store or online store, which are the two other macro area that we saw before, and begin to think about buying Lego product. And then there is acquisition, where in this case, both the father might buy both Lego for his children and for himself. And then the purchase can be repeated. And also might be that the father experienced through the movie and through the new Lego and online product a new way to exploit them. And then developing even stronger loyalty to the brand. Next.
Again, from the perspective of the child, so in our context, they may come across the Lego movie, and upon watching them, he starts developing an awareness and interest in Lego, and then from the awareness stage, he starts exploring physical stores, online stores, and begins to contemplate purchase and starts comparing Lego with other brands. So under the consideration stage, eventually they move to the acquisition stage, where the purchase begins, and with repeated purchase and further consumption, when the satisfaction consistently exceeds expectation, eventually he becomes a long-term consumer and a fan or advocate of Lego at the loyalty stage. Next slide, please. And just to wrap up on this portion, there are several in terms of the Lego movie customer journey. There are several different digital touch points, and this can range from having the movies in cinema, then all the way to other streaming services like Netflix and computers and mobile phones. Next, the marketing mix, the 7 Ps will be discussed.
Thank you, Clement. So in this course, we've learned a lot of very useful frameworks that relate IP and business. This is another interesting one that adds the marketing element to it. I was aware of the 4P, but now the 7P is a bit of a complementary tool. So these are 7 elements that are considered when reviewing competitive strategies across a product, customer service, and more. Of course, very much related to the customer's perspective. And these 7 Ps help companies to review and define key issues that affect the marketing of its products and services. This has become a very popular marketing model, which is the one that we see here. Considers 7 elements that we all know. I'm going to read them again. And now we're going to connect them to the IP strategy of Lego in the next slides. So first of all, making a very general overview of the IP strategy, or the IP portfolio, to say so. As all the groups have said before, the original patent expired, so then Lego had to rethink of how they can protect their appropriation for a longer term. So the main focus now has been on trademarks, including some 3-term trademarks and some sound marks. They have not been super successful, but they are part of their portfolio. Lego has put a very strong emphasis on community designs, which add a layer of protection to the different Lego elements and parts. There's, of course, domain names, copyrights, and trade secrets and know-how as part of their strategy. So in the perspective of trademarks, a part of the, let's say, standard trademark as a name, the Lego name, Lego also successfully achieved to introduce the mini figurine in 1978, and now it has a trademark protection to it that, of course, broadened the capacity of appropriate their developments related to these mini figurines. Of course, the trademarks are not only the name, but how they are implemented throughout all the platforms, like their websites, social media, stores, etc., that we're going to see now in the next slides. In certain jurisdictions, there's also copyrights rights that they have secured and also enforced. This is one example of a copyright registration they have in the US that they also have enforced in many several cases. There's, as many of the other groups have said, they have some design patents or community design patents. They have faced some issues in the registration because there's many technical elements to it. But Lego has been successful in defending them and actually allowing the registration and potential enforcement. And now going to the first element of the 7 P's of marketing mix that defines what is the product that Lego is providing. The products are the ones that we and all the other groups have defined already, include these figurines, animal cars, boats, video games, and Legoland parks. And this can be protected by several means of IP, the science, of course, the branding, all the trademarks and cooperation and agreement with other trademarks. For example, the partnership with Star Wars has been very successful in creating, let's say, some synergies between the two brands. Of course, copyright element to it. Price is also a very important element from the marketing perspective, but also from the business perspective. As we see here, Lego has targeted children belonging to the group of 3 to 15 years old from upper class and middle class families as their target customers. This, of course, defines the pricing strategy. They have always emphasized on the use of high quality materials so that they can be handled by children in a safe way. So for this element, Lego has adopted a mid-premium pricing policy for its high-end products, and this is of course supported by their strong brands, their designs, and the brand partnership that they have been participating on. In terms of people, how Lego defines the people that they hire, there's a strong emphasis on the culture, on the employees. There's a huge department of R&D, so there's a very high need of highly skilled people that they can bring some innovative designs for their products, and this is of course aligned with the branding, not only the trademarks, but with the branding of what Lego means. And of course, in the designing and the R&D efforts, there's many know-how and trade secrets involved for this to happen. Promotion, also a very element of the marketing mix for Lego, is the definition of how how their customers discover the products. And many years ago, there used to be only the traditional way of going to a store, buying a Lego box, and going back home. But now the customers and the families are exposed to the Lego products in so many different layers. So it's not only the stores, but actually now they've developed these Legoland parks. There's of course the website. There's of course the social media, and none of these channels could be successfully be in place without the protection from the IP perspective that is built from a trademark, a good trademark portfolio that creates the branding, the domain names, and the design to support the portfolio of products. And this is closely related to the promotion. The place is how and where people purchase the products of Lego. And this can be made through different channels like the retail shops, retail channels, e-commerce, and manufacturing facilities. Same as we did with the promotion in the last slide. This is supported by their branding and the trademarks, the copyrights, and many designs. And lastly, the process element of the marketing mix is how Lego can deliver the products and services in a consistent way. And this is important to make sure that there's a good customer focus, there's enough efforts on research and developments, that there's a very well built logistic and supply chain to always being able to deliver the products to the customers, manufacturing equipment, and high emphasis on R&D. Of course, here the branding plays a big role for this element, and know-how and trade secrets for all the internal processes, as in logistic, manufacturing, and R&D. Oh, and we have the last one, also closely related to the promotion. This is how the environment, the physical environment of Lego looks like. That covers all the different elements, as the retail shops, retail channels, e-commerce, manufacturing facilities. Not too different than what we've spoken before. All these elements that we see here allow for this physical evidence of the marketing mix to be properly built. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.